Oprah fled after arrest. Warrant issued. Diddy's leaked footage exposes her role. It began with a leak. A grainy clip no more than 47 seconds uploaded to an anonymous account on a quiet Tuesday morning. But it was enough. Enough to ignite the flame that would engulf the empire of Oprah Winfrey. At 6:03 a.m. Eastern Time, a Homeland Security raid cracked open the gates of Sean Diddy Combs' mansion in Los Angeles. Among the files seized were encrypted backups, some partially erased, others intact. Inside them was footage long whispered about, now undeniable. Digital fingerprints led straight to Harpo Studios. Within hours, the Justice Department had names, timestamps, and transactional trails. The center of it all was Oprah. Once the most beloved figure in American television, now flagged as the primary enabler of a long-buried scandal. For years, whispers had followed her. The 2007 South African school scandal, the mysterious firings, the legal silences. But none had pierced her myth, until now. By 10:12 a.m., her private jet, a sleek Gulfstream 4 registered to Harpo Inc., was airborne. Destination Zurich, Switzerland. The FBI issued an arrest warrant by 11:44 a.m. that same day, but she was already gone. Zurich. Snow still blanketed the cobblestone streets of St. Moritz, where her villa sat like a fortress, stone, steel, and silence. No press, no statements, only encrypted phones and hastily deployed attorneys. And the world began to turn. Social media caught fire. Hashtags spiraled: Ver Oprah, leak, War Vault 47, Harpo cover-up. TikTok theories collided with real-time investigation threads on Reddit. And in the middle stood Jaguar Wright, a former industry outcast, now viral prophet. "I told you," she said in her live stream, her voice shaking with vindication. She wasn't shielding victims, she was shielding herself. Screens lit up with her old interviews, deleted clips, cryptic posts resurfaced. Even Gayle King, Oprah's longtime friend, issued a brief public statement: "I love my friend, but friendship is not immunity." That silence spoke louder than any accusation. At 4:32 p.m., Luis Calderon, U.S. Attorney General, confirmed what the world already knew: Oprah was officially named in a federal obstruction case. The charges were sprawling: evidence suppression, witness tampering, conspiracy. Not yet trafficking, but the investigation was far from over. CNN broke protocol and ran the headline, "The Halo Cracks." NBC followed, then the BBC, then PBS with a haunting special segment titled, "When Icons Fall." It wasn't just the footage, it was the silence, the pattern, the scale. $75 million in unexplained payouts from Harpo Inc., traced to shell companies in the Cayman Islands. A Zurich media node that had gone dark 18 minutes after Diddy's arrest. Calendar logs with coded names and private flight records. And then came Angela. She wasn't famous. Just a name on a payroll list. But Angela had receipts. A former assistant in Harpo's philanthropic arm, she was the one who packed the drives. She organized the couriers. She logged every delivery between Chicago, Los Angeles, and Zurich. Her 2023 tip-off email to the FBI, once buried, was now the backbone of the investigation. And she wasn't alone. One entertainment lawyer came forward with drafted NDAs, naming names, referencing Project Silk, a supposed Harpo initiative for media risk mitigation. Only it wasn't media they were protecting. It was reputation, power, legacy. At 8:57 p.m., Angela's voice echoed across 60 Minutes. She knew, she said. She told us to call it asset rotation, but they weren't files, they were people. The world froze. Outside Harpo Studios, candles flickered beside protest signs. Some still read, "Thank you, Oprah." Others now screamed, "Justice over celebrity." Inside her St. Moritz villa, the last known image showed her at the window alone, staring into the snowfall. The halo had cracked, the silence was over, and the reckoning had begun. Angela wasn't the only one. As media pressure mounted, more cracks split the foundation Oprah had built. By Thursday morning, 2 more witnesses had come forward. One, a former executive producer at Own the Other, an IT contractor from Harpo's Zurich node. They didn't speak on camera, but their documents did. Signed NDAs, coded invoices. An internal memo dated October 2022. All Paris reels must be verified and wiped prior to rotation. No secondary backups. Confirm node neutralization post-transfer. Another note read, simply, Zurich is stable. Angela is quiet, but Angela wasn't quiet anymore. And neither was the public. Hundreds gathered outside Harpo Studios, chanting slogans that once echoed in applause. "You get an arrest," mocked her famous giveaway line. Others stood in quiet vigil, holding photos of students from her South African school, questioning what had really happened behind those gated walls in 2007. Then came the footage. Not all of it, just 13 seconds. Blurry, muted, but clear enough. A recognizable face, a lavish private setting, and someone far too young. The DOJ didn't comment, but they didn't deny it either. Social media detonated. Paris Reel trended globally. Reddit moderators fought to keep up as thousands flooded subs with decoded logs, financial graphs, even a list of shell company directors allegedly tied to Harpo Inc. And through it all, Jaguar Wright's voice grew louder. This ain't conspiracy. This is coordination. This is how they move, quiet, rich, untouchable, until now. By Friday, FBI cyber analysts released a heavily redacted report confirming that metadata from DIDDY'S seized drives aligned with Zurich server activity, multiple logins from a Harpo Zurich subnet during the months of suppression, including transfers marked Vault Dispatch. Harpo didn't respond. Oprah's lawyers issued a brief denial. This is political persecution masquerading as justice. Ms. Winfrey remains committed to the truth. But truth had already found a louder voice. His name was Michael Dean, a former media strategist for OWN. He didn't hold back. She controlled the narrative, every guest, every edit, every clip. The smile you trusted it was curated, because nothing aired unless she let it. Dean provided communication logs showing internal suppression strategies during the 2019 Jaguar Wright interview tour. "We buried it," he admitted, on her orders. By Sunday morning, international outlets had joined in. Der Spiegel, Al Jazeera, Le Monde, all tracing Oprah's retreat to St. Moritz, all questioning the role of her media empire not just as storyteller, but as suppressor. Then came the Senate leak. 2 U.S. senators, briefed in a Homeland Security closed session, emerged visibly shaken. One gave a cryptic quote that would dominate headlines: "I've seen enough. Justice must follow, no matter who writes the checks." In Chicago, protesters replaced Oprah's Walk of Fame star with chalk words: "This was never about fame. This was about silence." In Zurich, Swiss authorities acknowledged receipt of a U.S. extradition request. Inside her villa, Oprah prepared her next move. But for the first time in decades, she was no longer writing the script. Monday morning began with silence and a convoy. At 6:04 a.m., local time in St. Moritz, a fleet of matte black vehicles pulled through the gates of Oprah's villa. No insignias, no media. Only Swiss officials in discreet uniforms and one man with a briefcase embossed with the U.S. State Department seal. Inside the villa, Oprah sat dressed in black. No jewelry, no makeup, no cameras. Her legal team stood around her like stone pillars, silent and still. The extradition request had arrived. Official, signed, irrefutable. But she wasn't ready to leave, not yet. "We need 48 hours, her lead attorney said. "There's a political asylum clause under Swiss law. We invoke it now." It was a stalling move, everyone knew it, but the Swiss allowed it. For 48 hours, the world held its breath. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., the Department of Justice escalated. Attorney General Calderon stood at a podium flanked by digital screens, each one showing forensic timelines, transaction graphs, and flight logs. The cover-up is no longer speculation, he said. It is structure, it is pattern, it is coordinated. A new term entered the media cycle: systemic complicity network. Reporters gasped as visuals showed Harpo's travel records, aligned with timestamps from seized Zurich servers. These aren't coincidences, Calderon stated. They're calendar entries. They're receipts. Back in Zurich, Oprah recorded a video. It wasn't defiant. It wasn't an admission. It was crafted. "I never meant harm," she said in a low, steady voice. "I tried to prevent chaos, not conceal truth. My legacy was built on protection, not silence. But perhaps I misjudged the danger of secrets kept too long. It aired globally within hours and failed." Critics called it manipulation. Survivors called it cowardice. PR experts called it legacy mitigation in real time. Even Gayle King broke silence once more. That video wasn't for healing. It was for headlines. Then came the most unexpected fracture. Tyler Perry, friend, partner, collaborator, publicly suspended all ties with Harpo. His statement was brief: "I believe in redemption, but not without truth." Hollywood turned cold. OWN's platform went dark. Sponsors pulled out. Universities began reviewing honorary degrees. One institution released a statement: "We are not erasing, we are re-evaluating." Jaguar Wright released a new live stream. This time she wasn't angry, she was measured. She had the power to expose it all years ago, Jaguar said. She chose image over integrity. That's not misjudgment, that's intent. Angela resurfaced briefly with a quote to The Guardian: "What's coming isn't justice for me, it's justice for silence." By Wednesday night, Swiss authorities issued their ruling. Extradition approved, no appeal, no extensions. At 4:26 a.m. on Thursday, a secure flight lifted off from Zurich en route to Andrews Air Force Base. No photos, no press. Only one woman in a gray coat, eyes down, seated between two federal agents. The inflection point had passed. The trial would begin, and for the first time, Oprah Winfrey would face not the camera, but the courtroom. The courtroom was unlike any she'd entered before. No studio lights, no curated audience, no applause. Just cold fluorescent silence, oak benches, and eyes, hundreds of them. Not fans, not followers. Observers, jurors, skeptics. Oprah Winfrey entered through a side door at 8:03 a.m., flanked by U.S. Marshals. She wore charcoal gray, no makeup. Her gaze was forward, unwavering. The judge, Honoré Miriam Escobar, presided. Known for her no-nonsense demeanor and deep disdain for spectacle, she wasted no time. "Let the record show that Ms. Winfrey has arrived under extradition compliance. Charges are in motion. Proceedings will begin." A media blackout was imposed within the chamber. But outside, the world raged. CNN dubbed it the trial of the century. BBC called it the betrayal of trust. Social feeds became war zones, supporters citing Oprah's decades of philanthropy, critics demanding full criminal accountability. Luis Calderon led the prosecution. His tone was razor-sharp. "This is not about stardom. This is about systems, about silence, and about what it costs when fame eclipses the law." Day one was about evidence. Servers seized from Harpo Zurich. Metadata showing synchronized deletions the same hour as Diddy's raid. Flight logs. A suspicious $75 million transaction to a Bahamian account held by a Harpo shell firm 2 days after Event 47. Calderon's voice cut through the stillness. "The question is not if Ms. Winfrey knew. The question is how deeply she coordinated the concealment." Day two was about testimony. Angela took the stand. She did not cry. She did not waver. "I was hired to manage donor logistics," she said, "but my real job was to manage digital transfers. footage, sometimes hard drives, sometimes encrypted vaults. We used diplomatic pouches. Her signature authorized them. Her voice tightened. She told me once, "The public forgives what they never have to see." Gasps rippled. Next came Michael Dean, the strategist. She crafted narratives, not just stories. Every scandal had a script. The leaks, the interviews, the redemptions choreographed. He paused. We didn't bury interviews. We buried people. Jaguar Wright's original Piers Morgan clip was played next. It wasn't theatrical. It was raw. She knew Jaguar said in the 2019 segment, "And when I tried to speak, they came after my kids, my finances, my name." She wasn't just silent. She funded the silence. The courtroom sat in suffocating quiet. Then came the turn. Oprah's defense opened with a single strategy intent. Her lead counsel argued our client was misled. She acted not to obstruct, but to protect. She feared global panic. She feared weaponized blackmail. Her decisions, though flawed, were rooted in risk mitigation, not evil. Oprah was invited to speak. She did, her voice steady, low. "I built my name on trust," she said. "But I began to believe I could shield the world from truths too dangerous to release. That was my sin, believing silence could be kindness. I failed. And for that I do not seek forgiveness, only understanding." Some jurors looked down. Others held her gaze. The prosecution wasn't done. Day 4 introduced forensic accountants. They traced a dozen payments from Harpo's Cayman network, routed to organizations linked to vault custodians and internal Harpo term. All payments marked education grants. All dispersed during blackout periods. Then came the closing. Calderon stood without notes. She had every chance to reveal the truth, and instead she curated it. While others were silenced, she was celebrated. This is not justice delayed, it is justice demanded. The defense's final words, she chose silence. But she did not choose violence. And she did not choose abuse. Distinguish the orchestrator from the opportunist. Deliberations lasted 3 days. Outside the courthouse, protesters clashed. Some held signs that read, "Beneath the halo lies truth." Others wept, holding old copies of Oh, the Oprah magazine. When the verdict came, the world stopped. Guilty, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, evidence suppression, not guilty on direct trafficking. The judge pronounced sentence to 5 years, suspended after 18 months, served plus restitution and court-mandated public redress. Oprah nodded. She did not cry. She stood and said only one thing: "I failed those who trusted me. I will carry that failure for the rest of my life." As she was escorted out, the courtroom remained silent. No applause, no cheers, only a legacy rewritten in real time. The prison gates opened under gray morning light. No cameras, no crowds, just a single government SUV waiting at the curb. Oprah Winfrey stepped into it without a word. 18 months served. The rest, restitution and redemption. But not forgiveness. America was different now. OWN was gone. Harpo dissolved. Her foundations disbanded. Corporate partners quietly pulled back. A generation once raised on her words now debated her name in college ethics classes. Her first stop, Chicago. In a plain community hall, she faced mothers of survivors, some who once praised her schools, others who had questions for years. She didn't bring a team, she didn't film, she just listened. Some forgave, some did not. She traveled next to South Africa. Her former students lined up, some hugging her, others turning away. One spoke, "You were our hope, but we deserve truth too." Back in the U.S., universities began removing her honorary degrees. Booksellers relabeled her book club picks. Her quotes, once framed in homes, were now taken down. And still she went. Detroit, Atlanta, Philadelphia. She visited shelters, rehabilitation centers, youth programs. No press, no headlines, just faces, just voices. Meanwhile, Jaguar Wright launched a documentary, The Vault. It opened with her now famous quote, "She wasn't the lock, she was the key." The film premiered at Sundance, then on Netflix, watched by millions. Angela disappeared from public view, her payout donated to a global anti-trafficking initiative. She declined all interviews. Her only public message was a note: "Truth doesn't need fame, just space." Monique accepted an Emmy for her latest project, a drama based on survivor stories. In her speech, she paused, then said, "Some of us never got the microphone, but now the mic's on." Capitol Hill held hearings. New laws on media liability and digital evidence suppression passed swiftly. Celebrity foundations face stricter oversight. The era of unquestioned influence ended. Oprah returned to her estate in Maui. There was no staff, no crew, no cameras, only handwritten letters stacked by the fireplace, some angry, some grateful, all raw. One night she held a private vigil by the ocean, a single candle, a folded letter in her hand. Her final journal entry, later published by court order, read, "I built a platform from people's trust, and when tested I protected the myth, not the mission. May I spend what time remains rebuilding where I once erased." Public opinion softened, but never healed. Polls showed 38% believed in her remorse. 42% believed her legacy should remain severed. Still, in a town hall in Baltimore, a young girl raised her hand and asked her a question. "Do you think people can still change the world, even after they break it?" Oprah paused, then answered, "Only if they admit they broke it." The audience clapped, but it wasn't applause, it was acknowledgement. And in that sound, a new kind of beginning. Years passed. The name Oprah Winfrey no longer commanded reverence, nor did it spark unanimous rage. It had become something else, an echo, a lesson. In universities, courses titled Power and Perception used her as a case study. In churches, pastors quoted her rise and fall as modern parable. In classrooms, her story was dissected not for entertainment, but for ethics. She stayed away from screens, no interviews, no cameos, no memoirs. Instead, she worked quietly. A new nonprofit, Unbranded, began operations in underfunded towns, anonymous in its donations, fierce in its mission. Survivors ran the board. Former whistleblowers staffed the leadership. Angela returned not to fame, but to foundation building. Jaguar Wright took her place among policy panels and international forums, speaking with hard-earned gravitas. Monique, now a leading voice in survivor advocacy, continued to push for systemic reform. The world had changed. So had the rules. A Senate subcommittee on media ethics was formed, named the Wright-Dean Commission. Its mission to regulate digital suppression, strengthen whistleblower laws, and enforce transparency across celebrity foundations. Harpo became a ghost brand, mentioned in retrospectives, archived in documentaries, whispered in think pieces. OWN, once a channel of inspiration, was now a cautionary tale. And Oprah. She became a visitor, a speaker at private sessions with survivors, a listener in town halls, no cameras, just notebooks. In one meeting, a boy stood up. Barely 14, his voice broke as he asked, "Do you believe people can change without being famous again?" She nodded. "Fame never changed me," she replied. "It hid me." His tears said more than applause ever could. Her final public appearance came 5 years after her conviction. It wasn't planned. She stepped onto a community center stage in Oakland unannounced after a scheduled speaker canceled. A small group had gathered to talk about silent shame and speaking up. She didn't speak about herself. She asked questions, took notes. At the end, a woman in the back asked, "What do we do when the people we trust the most are the ones who hurt us?" Oprah replied, "You speak, even if your voice shakes, because silence is the only thing louder than guilt." The room fell quiet, then someone clapped, then another, but she had already left. Legacy isn't always the applause that follows you. Sometimes it's the silence you leave behind and what others decide to fill it with. And in that silence something new finally began. The halo was gone, but the truth remained.